I'm Laura Billington and I'm a CFM Advanced Practitioner for the Nelson and College Group in partnership with Runshaw College. I'm joined by Janet Preda, who is also an Advanced Practitioner, and Gail Gothard, who is our Project Coordinator. At Nelson this year we focused on this question. How do workshops, designed using a maths mastery approach, delivered in weekly small group sessions, in addition to discrete classes, impact learners on a post-16 GCSE Maths Resit course? A little bit about the Nelson and Colne College Group. There are 3 sites based in East Lancashire, the Nelson and Accrington sites, which are largely 16 to 19, and Lancashire Adult Learning, which is our main adult provision. We had 300 GCSE maths learners this year and 420 functional skills learners across the 2 sites. Learners on the GCSE maths course had at least a level 1 functional skills qualification or grade 2 GCSE or above. For most of the learners, this was based on a teacher-assessed grade, as no summer GCSE exams had taken place for the previous 2 summers. And the majority of this cohort this academic year is going to be their first formal exam. East Lancashire suffers high levels of deprivation and unemployment, and the college firmly believes that by developing maths, English and digital skills, we can improve the opportunities for our learners, and that's why the college describes itself as a big, fat maths, English and digital college.
What is mastery? On this slide is a quote from Dr. Helen Drury, who is a pioneer for teaching and learning for mastery in the UK. This quote explains the idea of mastery. I'll just give you some time to read through the quote. So, what does the literature say? The literature says about mastery. We started our literature review by looking at maths mastery. The concept of a maths mastery approach was born in the late 1960s by American educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom. One of Bloom's most notable findings when developing his approach to maths mastery was that there was an increase in motivation for learning. For resit tutors across the country, this is one of the hurdles to overcome, motivation to continue to learn and engage. Teaching for maths mastery was further developed in East Asia in the 1980s. The movement is more commonly known as Singapore Maths. The approach enables students to develop mathematical fluency without resorting to rote learning and encourages them to solve non-routine maths problems without memorising procedures. The concrete pictorial abstract approach is at the core of maths mastery. Learners use a range of manipulatives to investigate mathematical concepts and then progress to symbols and then progress to pictorial representations before using number and mathematical symbols. We also looked at the Essential 8 framework developed by Jay Cooper. The framework instills a focus on teach less, learn better, as opposed to existing theories of teach more, faster. Cooper established that for a student to be successful in their GCSE maths exam, they need to focus on 8 core topics. The skills acquired from mastering these topics give learners the confidence and ability to be able to apply this knowledge to all questions posed in the GCSE Maths Resit exam. And what did the literature say about small group workshops? Small group tuition or workshop can be defined as a teacher working in a separate space to the usual classroom with a group of 2 to 5 learners. It's usually used with lower attaining students or those that are defined as falling behind. And for several years, research evidence has suggested that small groups are effective in allowing learners time and space to master concepts.
What did we do? The intervention was delivered in weekly workshops. The group sizes were kept to below 6 and the sessions were kept to 1 hour long. This was done like this due to a number of factors: research, timetabling issues, the commitments of the main courses and the business needs of the college. The intervention started at the beginning of the second half term and each block lasted the duration of 1 half term. The delivery of the blocks was based on a mastery approach, with learners looking at one topic per block in depth, whilst it also interleaved the concepts of other areas. The CPA structure was applied using a range of manipulatives to develop concrete understanding before we then moved on to the pictorial and the abstract. The order and topic decision were highly influenced by Cooper's Essential 8 framework and the topics that the students had performed badly on in the initial assessment, alongside the topic weightings from previous GCSE exams. Each area was broken down into smaller steps that started with the basics, and the philosophy behind this was to ensure that the students developed a deep understanding of the work covered and had a solid foundation of their knowledge. Who did we choose? Well, the research was carried out across the two campuses and 88 learners took part in all. The participants, they were selected based on prior attainment, and the intervention was aimed at the learners who had achieved either a grade 2 at GCSE or the functional skills level 1. Previously, these students would have been entered for the functional skills level 2 exam here. However, this qualification isn't offered to them here anymore, so they've been entered for the GCSE. What data did we get? We collected a combination of both qualitative and quantitative data. The data collection was carried out over the course of the year, and we did it in 2 data cycles. The first cycle used the data from the first 2 blocks. After we'd analysed the data, it then informed changes that we made to the second cycle. We used a range of data collection techniques at multiple checkpoints throughout the cycles, and these techniques are shown on the slide.
Hi, I'm Gail and I'm going to talk about our findings. So, what made the workshops a success? We found that the main elements for success were content, relatability and workshop structure, which combined led to increased student confidence. And today I'm going to talk about these 3 findings in more detail. So first of all is content relatability. So the thing that sets our workshops apart from a normal maths lesson is their bespoke nature and the use of manipulatives which are really helping students underpin key concepts. Feedback from our research reveals that students often refer to the workshops as being fun and different to their maths lesson, and when asked, it's the manipulatives that provide that fun element to the workshops, with students finding them more engaging and memorable than the normal maths lessons. Another key factor is that they need to be relatable to students. It's not a one size fits all, and what clicks with one student does not necessarily click with another. This was evident in one of our workshop observations whereby blocks were being used to concrete ratio concepts, but one student just could not, it just did not click, they just couldn't get it. But when the blocks were used in an alternative manner, so in this case they used them as building towers instead of laid down on the table, it just suddenly clicked with that student. It's also been shown as well that there's a positive relationship between attendance and enjoyment, and learners admit that they don't want to miss lessons as they get behind. And feedback from one of our teacher focus groups was that one teacher did recognise as well that the more they attended the workshops, the more they liked them. But you could also argue there as well that, you know, students are starting to build up that rapport with the workshop teacher and the small groups that they're in. I'd just like to leave you with some quotes there on the slide, which are taken from our focus groups and illustrate how both students and teachers are finding the workshops fun and engaging. So next is workshop structure, and we've identified that there are 3 key elements for a successful workshop, which are that the workshop needs to be delivered at the right pace, it's the right length in time, and it has the right number of learners. So first off, it's all about the pace. Students admit that normal GCSE lessons are far too fast-paced, but unfortunately that's the nature of the GCSE resit course. However, these workshops have enabled students to take a step back and learn key concepts at a pace that is comfortable with them. Some drawbacks are that although students liked the pace of the workshops, at times they felt a bit agitated when they were waiting for others to catch up. However, they did realise that they recognised that the need was to work on deepening their understanding before all moving on together. Next, the length of the workshops is important. Students have attended a 1-hour workshop per week, concentrating on one topic block per half term.
Barriers faced this year. COVID-19. The impact of COVID still lingers on with this student cohort. These students have spent the majority of the previous 2 years learning online. Getting back into college and the structure and the mindset has had some impact. Timetabling. The workshops need to be timetabled from the start of the year with clear expectations needed from the offset. We found adding an additional hour of maths midway through the year created unnecessary resistance. Attendance. For various reasons, attendance has caused problems. It could have been through disengagement, illness, COVID or otherwise, the fact that the sessions weren't compulsory. Getting the students there did prove a challenge at some points. However, once they were there and once they attended, they saw the benefits firsthand and they often came back.
Our headline recommendations for implementing a series of mastery-based workshops would be: timetabling from the beginning of the academic year. As teachers, we felt that attendance and participation would have been greater if the workshops had been timetabled from day one, instead of trying to add an additional hour of maths after the first half term. Workshop structure. The learners appreciated the smaller groups, the slower pace, the smaller steps, and the hour time slot. Relatability. This was the biggest factor for success. The students need to be engaged to learn, and the use of the manipulatives, the concrete, helped with this. We would just like to thank you for listening to our presentation.